If I had to describe myself in terms of how I would differentiate myself from other natural providers, I'd be considered a functional medicine provider that specializes in endocrine disorders. We know that the vast majority of ailments in the Western world are chronic lifestyle-induced diseases. We don't suffer largely from infectious type diseases like malaria or cholera, things like that. We suffer, vast majority of people and deaths are from lifestyle-induced diseases. When you look at chronic diseases, there's an inflammatory component. Diabetes is now recognized as inflammatory disease, heart disease, all of these things. A lot of people ask me, what is inflammation? So we're all familiar with acute inflammation. Sprained ankle swells up. Well, what I'm talking about, and what researchers and myself and other scientists now have identified, is subclinical inflammation. Again, that's this low-grade, think of it like lava below the surface. It's this low-grade smoldering irritant. And depending on what you do or don't do every single day of your life, you're telling that lava or that inflammation to either elevate and that pressure to build up, or you're telling it to calm down and back off. So each day you have the power of essentially telling your body to express disease or to express health. So as you make choices throughout your day, if you're making inflammatory choices, that pressure will start to build up, and the chemicals that turn on chronic disease, chronic pain, heart disease, degeneration, arthritis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc., those genes start to get expressed when there's too much inflammation in the body. And that's where you get the imbalance. There's hundreds of foods that cause inflammation, and there's hundreds of foods that reduce inflammation. And so if you switch that balance, then you can have a massive impact on your health. And also today, our society is very sedentary, and we know that's a huge aspect. We sit more than we should. We don't exercise as much as we should. We don't get as much sunlight as we should. The air quality that we get isn't as good as it should be. Even getting too little sleep, we know, can raise inflammatory mediators, such as cytokines and prostaglandins and things like that. So when you look at all these inflammatory chemicals in the body, look at all the things throughout the day that reduce that. Lots of social interaction, laughing, being active, exercise, clean air, regular sunlight, good nutrition. I believe that the best change that we could have would be if someone has a problem, they go to a natural wellness oriented provider first. Whether that's, of course, a chiropractor, a naturopath, a functional medicine practitioner, someone along those lines initially. And if it couldn't be fixed or ameliorated with natural solutions, natural lifestyle changes, supplements, nutrition, exercise, meditation, etc., then you take the next step up. Because we know that every drug that's out there, there's a side effect for it. And just like smoking, every time you take a drug, the chances of side effects go up. Just like every cigarette that someone smokes, their chances of health consequences goes up. To me, a breakthrough is when you have a pain point or something that you're passionate about that you're working on so fervently. And one was, it wasn't necessarily a moment as much as a defining person, and that was my mom. I remember when I was 10, when my mom got sick.
In my 40s, it happened very suddenly, very suddenly. I woke up that summer every morning with tingling in my hands. Finally had a neurologist who, gosh, he was probably the 5th doctor I went to, tell me I had fibrositis. Now they call it fibromyalgia. Because by then it was going all the way down my right side. And also the fatigue set in. I was very tired, so I didn't know what was wrong with me. All my pain that had been on my right side appeared on my left side.
That time in our life of, what's wrong with mom? Mom's sick and there's no answers was hard for our family.
Yeah, I remember, so my mom was really super active back when I was younger. And then really about overnight, my mom was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. My mom went from being full-time school teacher, playing with me and my brother out in the woods, building this house from the ground up, to being bedridden. And that was really tough because our mom kind of disappeared at that point.
Meanwhile, we'd come home from school and there'd be a little number by the TV and say, well, depending on where that number was, whether mom was, checked out, or if she was able, we could go up and bother her or wake her up or interact with her that day.
Sometimes when the numbers were high, it was like, well, yeah, we're not going to see mom tonight. And that was really tough.
Unless you've had chronic fatigue and chronic pain, it's very difficult to know what it's like to live with it day in and day out. My son, he graduates, from college, and he's headed to Palmer Chiropractic School in Florida. He says, Mom, I'm really excited about something here. And he said, I'm learning so much about nutrition and how diet and what we eat affects every part of our being.
Thad called her up one evening and was like, Mom, I think this is it. Like, I think I found what this is all about. And he started talking about inflammation and diet.
He says, all right, Mom, I got a plan for you. This is what you're going to do. So he said, well, I'm going to start sending you some literature, sending you some things to read, because I really want you to educate yourself. But in the meantime, Mom, I'm not going to eat these foods. After about the end of 30 days, I thought, okay, I'm back to where I was and maybe even a little bit more energy. So now I started keeping logs, and I could see that slowly my energy was improving. 6 months later, I'm still doing it, and I'm feeling better. I'm sleeping better at night. And I remember after, at one point, saying to him on one of the phone calls, you know, I just realized I haven't had a migraine headache. I haven't had a migraine headache like in a couple of months. I used to get them several times a month. Well, now I didn't have them. And that was great. So I started just seeing that this really was working. 10 years later, my fibromyalgia is in 100% complete remission. I went on a hike yesterday with people my age, and I'm leading the pack, and I'm going like, come on guys, let's get going. It's almost like the fountain of youth. That is, I believe, what my son lives by. Wanting to make the world a better place by helping as many people as he can regain their health. And he'll do it one at a time. He just as soon do it 100 at a time, 1,000 at a time, but whatever it takes, that's what he's committed his life to.
She's just healthier than she's ever been. She's able to keep up with me and my brother when we go on hikes, and some of the friends we take along who, I'm 37 years old, so I have some friends that are in pretty decent shape. They're turning back halfway, and she's making it to the top. It's really amazing. It's really just a beautiful thing.
You know, one of the things that my grandmother always told my mom, and then that my mom instilled in me, was, asking yourself at the end of the day, is the world a better place because you're in it, or is it a worse off because you're in it? And if you can say that the world was better off because you're in it today, then you did a good job that day.